Viva la France. Technically, Viva la Ireland or Irlande, but for today, it's all about our European neighbours, with a sprinkling of Irish, of course. And a bottling that quite honestly deserves a space on Rare Whiskey Wednesdays. Let's drink some rare Irish whiskey. Welcome to Rare Whiskey Wednesdays. I'm the Whiskey Chaser Brian here in Christy's bar, Kilkenny. I hope you're keeping well. So, like I mentioned a few weeks ago when I did the Black Bush 8020 PX Sherry release, I had another bottling from Bushmills that I wanted to feature on the channel. To be fair, I was just waiting on a few videos to get through it before I eventually got to it. And I'm delighted to say it's here today. This is the Bushmills Black Bush Caviste edition, a 43% ABV release only for the French market. And we have it here. This was, if I remember correctly, memory is not a thing of mine, but released back in May, I believe. And yeah, I know I'm only getting to it now, I know, but the reason it's featuring on Rare Whiskey Wednesday is quite simply because it is rare. You can not get it in Ireland, only France, which in my book makes it rare enough and a worthy contender for the show. Now, what we aren't going to do is talk about Bushmills or much on Black Bush. We've covered all that extensively and I'll link down below to that. What we're going to do is talk about how this 3% extra in ABV can make such a difference. Those who are into Bushmills whiskey, those who collect it, those who drink it, buy it, talk about it, etc., know that it's rare enough to see a standard Bushmills bottle be above 40% ABV. That's what they do. Their range is 40% ABV, unless you have some special type of release like this. Or I believe some older bottlings are floating around at a slightly higher ABV, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't collect Bushmills or anything like that. Anyway, I recently met up with industry legend Seamus Lowry, who would describe himself as a whiskey guy with Bushmills. A little bit more than that, but he is a legend and his knowledge runs incredibly deep. So I asked him, Seamus, how come you don't release any of the standard Bushmills range above 40%? I mean, his answer didn't really surprise me as much as it made me think about how obvious it was. Quite simply, and realistically, it becomes a different whiskey. You have to admit that's a fair point to make. It's not the whiskey that they blended to be part of the core range. It's now a different whiskey with different flavors that takes on a different identity to an extent. It makes sense, really. So then why release a 43% ABV Black Bush and not a 46% ABV Black Bush? And I'm guessing for the same reason I've stated. It changes the identity of the Black Bush we all know and quite frankly love. To be fair, it is quite possibly one of the best blended whiskeys on the market, in my honest opinion. So then 43% seems like a nice biting point for alcohol content while trying to retain that recognizable blend most of us adore. I mean, the real reason I want to drink a higher ABV whiskey is to get more concentrated flavors and more kick from the whiskey itself. And that's just me, but I don't typically water down my higher strength whiskeys, but you can, which also gives more flexibility and experimentation if you're into that sort of thing. Anyway, that's just some of an opinion of mine, and some of you might feel differently, and that's cool. But what do you prefer yourselves? Do you like a higher ABV, a standardized ABV moving forward? Are you simplistic, or do you like to experiment with your whiskeys? Leave a comment down below and let me know your thoughts. So we move on to the whiskey then. It's the exact same DNA as the original Bushmills, okay? Nothing is changing here. The same quantity of malt to single grain used, 80% malt to 20% grain. The same casks used, first fill, refill bourbon, along with Oloroso sherry too. Again, this is a non-age statement whiskey, but like the regular Black Bush, there are single malt whiskeys up to 8 years of age used here. The only difference, say it again, is the ABV is higher. While the regular Black Bush is, you guessed it, 40% ABV, the Caviste edition comes in at 43%, which is in bold writing here on the label, and only available in the French market. I did say that. Not sure how many bottles, but I did find a website that will ship this to Ireland, and I will link to that below if you like. Now, be careful with customs and VAT and all that stuff. You could get stung. Heads up. €30 plus shipping is what I paid for this. I think shipping was €15 or something like that. I can't remember. I bought it a while back, but worth a punt in my opinion if you're a Black Bush fan and want to try it. Also, I feel like I shouldn't have to say this at this point, but all thoughts are my own. I'm not sponsored by Bushmills. I did buy this bottle for myself and one for the bar here. And now that that's cleared up, let's get it in the glass. And we pour. Let's let that breathe a bit and give you the rundown once again. Black Bush Caviste edition. Caviste meaning actually cellarman or wine merchant, exclusive to the French market only. About 30 odd euros. The exact same whiskey as regular Black Bush, only 43% instead of 40%. Something Irish whiskey drinkers have been literally crying out for here in Ireland in recent times. 43% higher ABV Bushmills. Just okay, so I've given it a few minutes to breathe here a little bit. It's in the glass, and let's do some tasting notes. Lovely. On the nose, you're getting that undeniable Bushmills Black Bush nose, full of apples, pears. Lovely bit of sweetness there. There's like a honeysuckle, an overnote of like a honey kind of note tying it together. There's a hint of ABV, right? So there's a hint of alcohol, as in like I noticeably noticed that this is a little bit stronger in ABV. I'm kind of pulling out those nutty notes from the sherry a little bit more than I would the regular Black Bush. So the regular Black Bush, I always found it to be, you get the malt forward. You're still getting malt forward here, but not as much as the nuttiness on the original Black Bush. Here, we're stepped up a little bit. Not much, but noticeably so. Yeah, that honey note is hanging over, almost like a honeysuckle. It's hanging over everything and tying it all together and giving it that lovely sweetiness and rounding out the nutty notes just a touch. But that malt is just delicious. Those apples and pears, orchard fruits kind of notes, absolutely gorgeous. A touch of white pepper spice, a touch. Yeah, and those nutty notes coming through at the end there. It's not the most complicated whiskey in the world. It's quite straightforward. It does what it says on the tin, but it has distinct aromas to it. Anyway, let's get on the palate. Sláinte it. I mean, that's so good. There's that lovely honey sweetness is coming straight through first. A little bit of the spice, a little bit of pepper, white pepper spice. Orchard fruits are there. Oh, there's a chocolate note there as well, which is quite lovely. Not so much sherry notes. Malt, yes. Honey, either honey syrup or honeysuckle, yes. Oh, the coating on the palate is lovely. Not so much of the sherry notes yet, but I have a feeling this will open up as the more we drink. I have a feeling. I've drank half this bottle already because it was that good. And I had to stop myself because I knew I had to do this video. Drink sensibly. Another sup, sláinte it. Wow, it's really, really good. Those malty notes driving on the flavors mixed with the honey. So it's a sweet apple or sweet peach or peach pear that you're finding coming through. A little bit of the spice there, nothing overwhelming spice-wise, but a noticeable difference to the ABV. Something it's nodding its head at, it's winking at you, it's there. What else could I say about that? Not thin, oily enough on the palate, right? So it's not the thickest of whiskeys I've had viscous-wise, but it's not the thinnest either. It's kind of middle. We'll finish it off one more. Sláinte. Bit of chocolate notes, white pepper notes. A little bit of the sherry nuttiness coming through in the end, like I thought it might. Open up just a little bit more on the palate. Very slight though. The finish, that sweetness is there, that kind of syrupy content, as in like a honey syrup kind of note. A little bit of the pepper spice, not overpowering, not leaving the palate kind of too dried out. Yeah, nice medium length finish there with plenty of all the characters that I gave on the palate. Your sweetness, a little bit of sherry notes, milk chocolate, and your orchard fruits. I'll give you my thoughts in just a minute. So honestly, what do I think of this? For 30 euros, you should buy 10 of them. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, smashing, absolutely smashing dram. There's nothing I would put out of whack in terms of flavor profiles here. The way it drinks is absolutely gorgeous. If you're a Black Bush fan, this is a lovely one. I actually preferred this over the PX 8020 that I did a few weeks ago, link below. I prefer this because it's more truer to the Black Bush DNA. It doesn't have that PX overly kind of syrupy PX note coming through. What it does have is it has all the qualities of a Black Bush just turned up, just enough without it becoming a different whiskey for 30 quid-ish, plus shipping of 15 euro from France. Would I buy a bottle? Yes, I would buy another bottle. And you should definitely try it. Put it on your list, make a note. We have one here. I might even leave this one behind so someone else can try it if you like. But I would recommend either A, buy a bottle, it's not gonna break the bank, or B, try it. Because if you're a fan of Black Bush or Bushmills in general, that's a quality dram. Now, make absolutely certain that you are subscribed, and if you like that channel or the content that I'm bringing you, then give me a thumbs up and a little bit of support. That way I know that you're engaging and that I'm not wasting my time. These videos take forever to record, to plan, to edit, to upload, to tag, to do all that kind of stuff. So any kind of stuff like that would be absolutely remarkable. Yeah, that's it. That's all we have for you this week. Until next week, keep it Irish. Slánse.